Hey guys, Namada here. So I wanted to talk about how defense skills work in Drakons and how you can utilize them. So to start things off, we have the very first and the most basic type of defense, which is the defense skill card. There's no attack point cost to this, and you can use them any number of times. There's no limit to how much you can use for your card set. So what the defense skill card does is that it blocks off 50% of the damage thrown at you, and it also has a 50% chance of deflecting debuffs to you. So those debuffs are what you commonly see. Those would be petrify, burn, and stun. There might be more added in the future. I have no idea yet. And the second form of defense would be the spectacular reflecto. So this basically is the same as the first skill card or the defense skill card. However, the only difference is that it can return a portion of damage done to you back at the enemy, and you can only use this 3 times for your skill set. And the last form of defense, which is the strongest one, the Aegis, and it costs 4 attack points, and you can only use this 2 times for your skill set. So what the Aegis does is that it blocks off 100% of the damage done to you. So the debuffs that were supposed to take effect here would be negated with 100%. So now I'm going to talk about how basically you can utilize your defense skills to your advantage when you set up your skill set. There's a passive skill in Drakons. That passive skill is Rage. So what does a Rage do? So let's say the enemy in the turn 1, the enemy has an attack skill, and in my turn 1 I have a shield, and in my turn 2 I have an attack and the enemy does a shield. So what happens is, if the enemy attacks me on turn 1 when I have a shield or any form of shield, basically what happens in the next turn or the turn 2 is that my attack skill card will have a rage. Basically it multiplies the damage I have, so basically I will have a stronger attack. That's one way how you can utilize defense skills to your advantage that I don't really see many players do. And also I would like to mention that, let's say if the enemy attacks and I decided to defend on turn 1, and on turn 2 I still decided to use a defense skill on turn 3, what happens is that the rage passive skill still activates. Also, I would like to point out that there's another form of rage, which is the full rage. So how do you activate a full rage? You have to set up 4 types of defense. It doesn't really matter what you do. Like, you can do this, you can also do that, as long as you have 4 types of defense skills lined up. And this is the most important one: if your enemy for the next 4 turns decided that, hey, I'll just attack the enemy, without defending. When I use 4 types of defense in my first 4 turns, and the enemy also decides that they will use 4 attacks on the first 4 turns, so what happens on your 5th turn, basically your attack becomes a full rage, so it becomes a really powerful attack. You could also combine it with your strongest attack, which could probably one shot the enemy if you upgrade your skill enough. So now I would like to talk about is if it's possible to cancel an attack if ever I get debuffed. Let's take this for example. So if you can see here on my turn 2, I have a defense skill, and my enemy on turn 2 has a skill that has a debuff, which is petrify. The 50% chance did not activate, so in my turn 3 my next defense skill was petrified. So now I get damage. I wasn't able to defend, I get damaged. And on my turn 4, where I decided to put my attack card, still has a rage with it, even though it was petrified, because I received damage or any form of damage against his card. So basically I just wanted to let you guys know that you don't have to worry if your defend card gets petrified and you still get damaged, because it won't matter, because it will still activate no matter what. So now, guys, I kind of explained to you how to sort of utilize your defense skill. So I'm gonna show you now my go-to skill set that I usually use, which actually wins me a lot of games. So I have two forms of defense. So this is actually pretty scary. Let's say my enemy for the first two turns decided to use an attack that has a debuff Petrify. So what happens is that if it activates this, the Aegis cancels out, and if the turn 2 also activates, which means this could cancel out, which means I'm screwed because I received 3 forms of damage without even damaging my enemy back. So it really hurts, but most of the time I usually see enemies usually put their attack or debuff on the second turn. I don't usually see enemies do that on the first turn. What I usually see is that they usually put defense up as their first turn, because they always think that maybe the enemy decides to attack on the first turn, but haha, I'm not like that. I decided to attack on my third turn, which is most enemies do not expect. This is how I utilize the rage passive. If I get petrified in my first or my first turn, my second turn, or whatever, it doesn't matter if I get petrified, as long as I get damage. On my third turn will always have a rage, which means that it will have an increased damage. So basically my mindset was I wanted to waste as much attack as possible against my enemy. And on the same note, guys, I don't want to waste your time explaining how I set my cards, because this isn't that video. I'll be making a more in-depth guide on the future. Thank you so much for watching.